How we doing, boys? I think we take for granted the sheer amount of highly specific and curated content we have available to us on the internet, especially when it comes to content created by digital artists and animators. It's not to say that a lot of work doesn't go into any kind of successful content creation, but due to the amount of time needed to sketch, finalize, animate, voice, and add background sounds and music, making cartoons on the internet has always been a form of entertainment that requires the largest time investment with the least amount of returned revenue. With these financial difficulties, along with demanding fans, insane time crunches, and the massive amount of time it takes to create a relatively small amount of content, it's easy to see how animation can sometimes feel like an absolutely daunting form of creative expression, especially when it's your livelihood. Some animators have their share of shortcuts and tricks to save time, and it's awesome that in the time we're living in, there are people who are able to make careers out of pursuing their passions, but it's no doubt that their efforts deserve all of our recognition and appreciation. That being said, in 2023, there are millions of animators and millions of cartoons that can satiate you while you're waiting for your favorite creators to make more content. But it hasn't always been like this. As our corporate overlords have consolidated even the weirdest areas of the internet into family-friendly advertising content sludge, it's hard to imagine a time when the internet was much more decentralized than it is now. I started using the internet on a daily basis from the time I was about 8 years old, which in the year of our Lord Vanderdecken was 2005. And while the internet was a bit beyond its infancy stage at this point, there still was a lot more to discover. I mean, YouTube had just launched, but over 99% of its content was pure garbage, so not much has changed. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself though. We're going to talk about YouTube's place in all of this in just a little while. The point is, in the early days of the internet, you actually had to go looking for videos and memes to send to your friends, which would then be sent into primitive group chats called group emails.
Ho, ho, ho. We meet again, Jesus!
You have blemished the meaning of Christmas for the last time, Kringle. Christmas is for celebrating my birth. I'm here to put an end to your blasphemy.
This time we finish it. There can be only one.
Dude, this is pretty fucked up right here.
This is Jesus vs. Santa, and if it looks familiar, that's because it was animated by Matt Stone and Trey Parker, the creators of South Park, and feature early designs of the characters that would come to be known as Stan Marsh, Kyle Broflovsky, Kenny McCormick, and Eric Cartman. This video was actually commissioned by Fox executive Brian Graydon in 1995 as a virtual Christmas card that he wanted to send to his friends. Brian became interested in Matt and Trey after seeing their 1992 short film on the internet, Jesus vs. Frosty. Within a matter of months, these two videos were being passed around to all corners of the internet, and even being copied to physical media like tapes. These two clips would together come to be known as The Spirit of Christmas, and they are known as some of the first viral videos ever. And more importantly, it helped a lot of people realize the potential of the internet and kickstarted the early days of internet animation. For the next few years, random cartoons would pop up here and there, and the launch of JoeCartoon.com in 1998 created one of the first hubs for online animation. Now, Newgrounds did launch in 1995, and that would also become a hub for online animation, but not until after the launch of Joe Cartoon. Between 1999 and 2005, there were hundreds of notable webtoons making names for themselves on Newgrounds.com, Funny Junk, and even the early YouTube. Cartoons like Happy Tree Friends, Homestar Runner, Weeble Animations, Ed's World, Salad Fingers, I mean, the list goes on and on. And while the number of websites that were built around hosting cartoons began to grow exponentially, there was nothing to prepare anybody for what was coming. The birth of YouTube in 2005 took what was once a niche online interest and pushed it right into the mainstream. But shit, man, if you ever want to take a look at this cultural impact, just look at the number of millennials who still quote Jason Steele's Charlie the Unicorn. It's way too many.
Oh god, what is that?
It's a Leo-Pleurodon, Charlie. A magical Leo-Pleurodon. It's gonna guide our way to Candy Mountain.
You also had the thousands of little stick figure animations that people were making with Stick Pivot. You had webtoons like the Laser Collection, Dragon Ball Z Abridged, Asdiv Movie, the Stick Figures on Crack series. You had the early Psychic Pebbles and Oni and G animations, Harry Partridge. I mean, there's so many. And so many of these videos had viral jokes or quotes, or they were being turned into top text, bottom text memes, or they were being emailed to you from your buddy Trevor's Hotmail account. But like when you get the email, it's broken, so you try to go find it on YouTube yourself. But after trying to find it for like 10 minutes, you get kind of frustrated, and now you're a little bit annoyed at Trevor for ruining your workflow, but you're not going to say anything because Trevor was just trying to reach out, you know, he's trying to be a friend, and we're not going to be mean to him for that. And like, it's not really his fault, you know? Like, here he is offering his hand in friendship, trying to share a laugh, and you're going to be a dick to him? No, not us. Not here on this channel. We're not gonna slap away that hand of friendship. Don't you worry, Trevor. Where the fuck was I on? Oh yeah, okay. Over time, YouTube completely changed the game on what it meant to create cartoons on the internet. Because instead of needing to scrape together the startup costs to start a website and then marketing that website to everybody that you possibly knew or anywhere that you could think of, you could create your own YouTube channel and market for free to your friends and family by posting your links on Facebook and spamming their newsfeed, which of course will cement to your family the thought that they've been having ever since you were born, which is you should have been aborted. Because what are you doing, man? What are you doing? You're 26 years old. You gotta get a job. You gotta start doing something. You also had the chance to get picked up by YouTube's algorithm, which, while still in its early stages, had the potential to launch careers overnight. Most creators, though, at least in the early days of YouTube, if they were making any money at all, it was coming directly from their website. See, what they would do is they would post a couple of their cartoons on YouTube just to kind of get the exposure, and then they would have a link to their website on their channel. And that's where you'd be able to find more of their cartoons that maybe they weren't uploading to YouTube. You could find exclusive merch or any other random content that they thought wasn't appropriate for YouTube. And this money that they would get from their websites could eventually help them turn their hobby into a livelihood. And then everything changed more with the introduction of the YouTube Partner Program in 2007. With the launch of the Partner Program in 2007, more and more animators began to move all of their content over to YouTube instead of just having some of their content limited to their website so that they could try to make more of that AdSense money. However, this is where those time constraints and the financial difficulties I mentioned earlier become more prevalent. Most people know that animation takes a lot of time, especially if you want to do it well. And with only so many hours in the day, most animators don't get a whole lot of time to work on the projects that they want to. Most of their time is spent working either another job to make ends meet to pay the bills, or on other animation gigs that aren't related to content for their own channel. It's also worth pointing out that taking longer to create content means that it takes longer for animators to develop a backlog, for people to discover them and check out their other content while they're waiting between uploads. And less content for people to watch, of course, means less ad revenue. Animations are also, at least usually, a lot shorter than other long-form content made for YouTube, which means that even on the videos that are monetizable, barring any issues with copyright or community guidelines, and let's be honest here, about 95% of the animation on YouTube does break the community guidelines in one way or another. And after all of this, the average person might start to ask themselves, why? Why would you want to spend all of this time creating content that will ultimately be watched by fewer people than normal for less time than the average video, and making less money doing it, ultimately working more for less? I'm not an animator, so this question is hard for me to answer. I mean, I'm sure we'd all like to believe that they're doing it for the passion of their craft and their art. And I feel like to create any kind of content, at least content that takes any kind of effort, you do need to have a tremendous amount of passion and love for the subjects you talk about. But it's easy to see how all of this work can feel like it's for nothing. Fortunately, modern technology and social media has helped in some regards to this. Diversifying social media accounts to ensure that animators are posting on multiple platforms like TikTok and Instagram can help bring in a little bit of extra money. Merchandising sales from their shops can really help, live streams really help, but most importantly, collaboration with other animators helps them to pay their bills and put food on the table while they're not getting as much work. Some animators are even lucky enough to have their work picked up by television networks or streaming services. This of course opens them up to the ability to have more stable, consistent work that they're also not being fairly compensated for, but hopefully less so. The important thing to remember here is that web animation has a foothold in the very roots of the internet. And if you have a web animator whose work you very much enjoy, I highly recommend, if you can afford it, I know, in this economy, maybe find a way to just toss a couple bucks their way, whether it's buying their merch or giving money on a live stream. Try to engage with their content and let them know that you enjoy the work that they're putting in. A few kind words go a really long way. There's never going to be a shortage of engaging, funny content on the internet. But at the very least, we can ensure that the people who are making that content are compensated fairly. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to my channel, leave me a comment, or give me a like, and I will see you guys in the next one. My name is Isaiah, and thank you for watching my video.